we aren't blaming you. Lord, Father, Tony is leaving, but we aren't blaming you. Lord, Father, Tony is leaving, and we know you're not to blame. Still, we're feeling really miserable, and we can't help but to complain. Lord, Father, Tony is leaving, but we aren't blaming you. We've put up with his shenanigans for all these many years. Now bereft, lost, and abandoned, we can't help but shed some tears. Lord, Father, Tony is leaving, but we aren't blaming you. We realize that he deserves to relax and take a rest, but we can't help feeling blue, miserable and depressed. Lord, Father, Tony is leaving, but we aren't blaming you. Okay, Lord, I guess we're done complaining for a while, so we'll probably have a big party and send him off in style.
I would like to introduce Father John Baker.
I am your neighbor to the west and a friend of Tony. Jennifer said I was to be the serious speaker. And I'm willing to be the serious speaker because I have a story to share with you I don't think you know. And though you know a lot of stories, but this is a story of how Tony ever came here in the first place. I found this out when the research was being done for the Basilica, and I have to say I was so moved by him and his example of forgiveness and love and the tragedy that he faced. Tony, as you know, is Irish, which means they play their cards close to their chest. And that's true. But this is what happened. As you know, Tony was pastor of St. Bede's, which was closed when he was down there. What he found out, and what has been revealed since, is before Tony ever was assigned there was an understanding that that parish would be closed down because there was never a need for two parishes in Key West. It was a situation of a bishop, Jesuits, clergy acting poorly. Tony put his heart and soul into St. Bede's. So you can imagine how devastated he was, horrified he was by a church that he loved, who betrayed him. They never let him know that the parish would be closing. They never let anyone know that. Tony went on the run for about a year and a half. He didn't invoke the help of Father, but he set out and he was off. Where Archbishop McCarthy finally found him was in L'École Biblique in Jerusalem because he was able. He was hurt, he was disgusted, and he did not know what he would do. Archbishop McCarthy asked him to come here to start this parish. And Tony made it clear there would be two conditions. One, he would not play with you, and he would not play with him. Tony Mullane came here because he forgave. He had every reason to be resentful and to never return. St. Peters began because of the forgiveness of one man. And St. Peters set forth because from that forgiveness, which comes from God, Tony declared and claimed that the love that he has for God and for his people would not be eclipsed by anyone in the church, but rather the church was to be a temple of love. St. Peter's began from forgiveness and love. I am so grateful for your friendship, Tony, to me, to St. Mary's, to our school, to everybody in Key West from your time there before and still there. But I'll have to tell you, when I found out this story about him, I just grew in admiration for him, and I am in awe by your example. Because though you do talk, and you do talk, what is more impressive than anything, you walk the walk. I am so grateful that at this time, we have Pope Francis, who when he describes priests, it's not the priest that Tony might have had to deal with a long time ago. But when he describes who a priest is, it's a job description for Tony Mullane. They were called to be a church of the poor, a loving church responding to needs in a positive way. And as Pope Francis would say, any pastor is called to, and Tony certainly does. You know the smell of your sheep. How blessed you are to have had Tony Mullane in your life for 24 years. In line for 7. Tony, God bless you. I am grateful for you, and I truly do love you.
Keep it clean, Sean.
Good evening, everyone. As many of the fans and parishioners of Father Tony that are here tonight, we want to go down memory lane with some of the highlights of his homilies. We could always count on a joke, blue sometimes, but hey, they were jokes. So from now, let's hear some of Tony's prize-winning jokes. Thank you.
Okay, Giovanni, have you got a joke for us?
Did you hear about the two guys? They were hunting in the woods. They went through the woods, and as they got to the edge of the woods, they saw this big, huge hole.
I did not hear that joke.
They thought it was a sinkhole.
No.
Yeah, and the one guy turns to the other guy and says, geez, you ever seen anything that big before? He says, no, that's a huge hole. He says, well, you know what? I saw an engine block back in the woods over there. Why don't you go grab it and throw it in the hole? See how deep it is. That's a good idea. So they both go over there, they grabbed the engine block, and they drug it over to the hole, and they threw it in the hole.
He told this on the altar?
I don't know.
Oh.
I thought it was a good joke. So they threw the engine block in the hole, and immediately this goat came charging out of the woods and dove into that hole head first. they both stood there and they looked at each other and said, what the heck was that all about? No, I don't know. He said, you ever see anything like it? No. Just about then, a farmer come walking out of the woods and said, hey, anybody seen my goat? He says, you know, it's funny you should mention that. He says, a goat just come charging out of the woods and dove head first into that hole. He says, well, that couldn't have been my goat. I hadn't tied to an engine.
Kathy, there was a rumor going around that Jesus was Irish. Any truth to that?
Well, you know, they had a lot in common. Irishmen and priests had a lot in common. And Irishmen and Jesus had a lot in common. You know, he never got married.
Let me just, they probably not drinking together.
Hey, he's stealing my lines. This is my joke. Yes, and he asked to have drinks with him the night before he died. His buddies, he asked to have drinks with his buddies the night before he died, just like Jesus.
And is there any other clues to his, what he was?
His last request, Jesus' last request, just like an Irishman, is to have a drink. He lived with his parents until he was 32 years old. He never held a steady job. Okay, now, are you going to steal the punchline like Father Tony would, or are you going to let me do the punchline?
Ladies first.
All right. He thought his mother was a virgin.